Okay, so I've got my 3D model of this building starting to come together in Revit, and so now I want to export it into Lumion, so I can start to set up some basic rendering and animation there. And so the first thing I'm going to do in Revit is make a view for that, a view for Lumion. So I'm going to right click on this 3D view here and go to duplicate, and then choose duplicate view, and then just choose duplicate. And then I'll right click on my new view, go to rename, and call it Lumion. Lumion doesn't care what the name of that view is, this is just for us, so we know which view we're trying to use. And then, to make it a bit easier to look at, I might just do one thing. I'm going to turn on the section box. This is optional, but it's just so that it's a bit clearer to you what I'm doing. If I turn the section box on there, I can then bring back the edges so that it's cutting away the ground. And that way my roads don't finish in a funny place. It's all going onto a rectangular base. But that's really optional. I just wanted to show you a change that I've done in the view. And then I'm going to hide that section box by right-clicking and then going to hide in view just elements. So that's what I'll get in Lumion. And I'll then just save my file. And maybe just to make it even clearer, I might put in a couple of trees. So I've got the massing and site. I'll go to site components and then just choose some trees. Anything really, doesn't matter. So I know there aren't many trees in this area, being downtown Surrey Hills, but I'm sure there'd be a couple on the streets there, so maybe I'll just put a couple onto my footpath there. I've got a couple of trees. If you haven't seen the way they look in Revit, when you go to realistic, you'll see they actually look okay. Takes a second, but they'll come up. Oh, you're kidding, and it's crashed. You see, that's why I saved it. The program's crashed. Yep. So when you're doing things like that, that's when it will crash, but if you saved it as you're going along. Just complex things. So there I was trying to put in the graphics to show the trees, and that would overload the graphics memory a little bit maybe, and there's a chance it'll crash. It shouldn't have been that complicated, but yeah. But it's always when you're pushing the graphics memory a little bit, things like that will happen. Okay, so let's just try again. So back under... No, I didn't say that part, but that's easy just to add them. So I'll just choose a different tree. Maybe that was the problem. I'm not really trying to show you trees, but I just want to show you some sort of change. Okay, so here, now if I go to realistic, please don't crash again. There we go. Yeah. So the trees in Revit actually do work reasonably well. But the reason they look like photos is because they are. So if you look at it, it's these two slices in each direction. So it's a bit of a trick really. They're just two-dimensional flat trees that are put at right angles to each other. So they look 3D in Revit. But other programs don't really cope with that. So that includes Lumion. It works very differently. The trees in Lumion are full 3D trees, and they look even better than this. So I don't want to see those trees in this Lumion view. I've got them in my other views, so we can see the trees are there in 3D. But again, in my Lumion view, I'm going to hide those trees. Right, I'm just going to hide the category, so I don't see any of those trees. But make sure it's clear to you the trees are still there. All I've done is hidden them in that Lumion view. Just so it's clear to you that I'm setting up a view that only shows the things that I want to see in Lumion. So anything that's hidden won't come across into Lumion. Okay, so that's done, and now on the Lumion tab, so make sure if you're going to try and use Lumion with Revit, you need that Lumion tab. It's an extra thing you can install, but all the computers in the college have the tab, so you can always just open your file on these computers and use it there. And then again, the other trick is don't try to use LiveSync. The computers aren't quite powerful enough to use that. So they're powerful computers, but you need a really powerful computer to use LiveSync. Double these. So I've got one with 48 gig of RAM and a newer processor than these, and better graphics card, and it can only just cope with it. So that's normal. So it's better usually to use this export option. So go export as collage file, and I'm going to put it back to where you would have it, which is on normal. You can increase the quality later for the surface smoothing, but to start with, it's probably okay just to have it on normal. And then just keep those same options. So collect textures, and you want expert nodes both tick for those two options. Never tick skip interior details, because you're going to be interior designers, so you want to keep the interior details, of course. So click export, and then decide where you want to save the file. So here I've got a folder for this project, but then I'm going to make a new folder. I've just right-clicked, and I'll go to new folder and call it Lumion. You'll see in a minute why it's handy to have a folder just for Lumion. So I'll click save. I'm not going to change the file name. I'll click save, and it's going to export. Might take a second. Now I should have saved my file, of course, because it can often crash here as well, but I'll remember to save it afterwards. It's just one of those things with Revit. You've got to get into the habit of saving as often as you can.
What are you going to show us on Lumion right now?
Yeah, that's right. So now I'm going to show you Lumion. So? Both. Both, yeah. Okay, so now I'll open up Lumion. So it's Lumion 9.
Lumion from Adobe or from
No, it's another company again.
right.
Yep, they're their own company. Yeah, it's great software. There are a few alternatives like this. There's one called Twinmotion. Yeah, it's an amazing program. Yeah, so you can give it a go anytime. So apart from that, yeah, Twinmotion, and then Enscape is another alternative. Yeah, Enscape, E-N-Scape. Yep, S-C-A-P-E, yep. So they're the main ones, but there are others.
Have you worked before on a software called Untitled
Yeah,
for joinery?
yeah, I have. I've heard.
Hard to learn on?
No, it's fairly user friendly, but
Similar to CAD?
yeah, it's like a specific custom CAD, really. Yeah,
Alright, so
Yeah. But it is for mostly things that are being cut off, sheet loose and things.
a question.
Yeah.
I went to an interview for a joinery company.
Yeah.
And they asked me, are you familiar with that software?
Right.
No, I've used CAD, Revit.
Yeah, yeah,
And
Yep.
Adobe software. I
Yep.
all the software.
yeah,
And he was like, but it's different than CAD.
yeah. It is. It's a CAM. So yeah.
Harder than
Well, yeah, I know there are some more technical things. It does help. I used to work in a joinery workshop, so I didn't find it that hard. But if you haven't done a lot of manufacturing type things, it might be a little bit to pick up. But just Google it. There will be YouTube videos that show you how to use it. Pyther, I think. I'll double check that. Yeah, I'll just double check that because I'm curious. I haven't looked at it for years, but I do remember it. So I thought it was Pyther, but I could be wrong. So, 'cause, 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 ' Or is it? I'd use Python, right? Well, Python, yeah, that's what I thought at first, but then Python, I always get mixed up because Python's also a language. So I thought it was Python, but let's have a look. I haven't looked at it for years, to be honest. Yeah, so let's just see though. Okay, so Lumion's finally opened, and it does take a little while to open. Don't worry if it says the computer speed's too slow. That's usually just because you've got a couple of programs open, but these computers can definitely run it. And so at first you just need to decide on a starting scene. And if... Sorry? Yeah, well if it's urban, then normally you just want to go for white or maybe plain, if you want grass in the background. I'll do plain for once, but I usually do white if it's urban. Well, kind of. There are sample scenes that have cityscapes, yeah. Okay, so I've got my background there, and all I'm doing is rolling the wheel back and forth to move the camera. Yeah, you can. You can change. Yeah, you can choose any of those that you like. And you can always change it if you go to this landscape panel. But for now, I'm going to go to stay on objects and then click import. And import new model. And then go and find my folder. And there's my Lumion folder I made earlier. And so you notice how it's made a folder for the textures. Yep, so the textures that you apply in Revit come across into Lumion. So if you've got custom textures, it'll copy them in there as well. So I've selected my file, I'm going to click open, and then this is one of the key things. After you click the tick here, don't worry about those options. So the key to it is just making sure that you click once. So here, notice as I move the cursor, that's the whole building. It's the whole project actually. So I'm moving my cursor. Yes. Yes. Yes, you notice how my textures on the flooring have come through.
Can you change materials?
Yeah, of course.
I mean, for the column and
Yeah, you can change the materials to whatever you want. Absolutely. Yeah. And you can do that in Lumion or in Revit. So the key though here is make sure you only click once to place that model. If I just start clicking away, it's going to click and place multiple copies of that model, and we don't want that. You can see now it's trying to place another one, and I only want one. So the good option there is to go from place down here to select. So that way you don't keep placing extra copies. And here, it actually helps. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, well, I'm using the arrow key, the keyboard shortcut. So here, it does help if you play some computer games. It does, yeah, WASD. That's right, exactly. So if you know those keys, they work. So on your keyboard, if you're wondering, you've never played those games, if you're wondering why it's WASD, if you look on your keyboard and see where those keys are, it's because they're close together. So W. Yeah, and the arrows still work. So the arrow keys, forwards and backwards, left and right, they work. But if you prefer to use W for forward, S for backwards, A for left, D for right, that works as well. It's up to you. But then also, if you want to go up and down, Q to up, to go up, and then E to go down. Yep, Q for up, E for down. Yep, and it's because they're next to W. Yep. Exactly, move your cursor onto the question mark, and they'll come up. Yep. Okay, so I'm going to bring it right out so that I can see the building. So I'm using the S key to move backwards, but the arrow key does the same thing, and the wheel on your mouse also does the same thing.
Oh, wow.
Right.
So there's my building with the city, but remember we've got a basement. We've got a basement. So everything that you want to see in Lumion should be above the ground. It's not very good at going below ground. So, move on select, and then I'm going to change it here to move up. So down the bottom you've got move 3, I'm going to go to move up, and then there, that blue node, that's my Revit model. So you normally need to find that blue dot, and then you can click and drag to lift the whole thing up above the ground. Right, so I'm trying to lift it all up so that I've got nothing that's below my grass. So that,
So the underside of the building,
yeah,
you're rising up above the ground.
exactly, exactly.
That's not a, you wouldn't normally do that.
Yeah, no, you should always do that. Right, so then, if I lift it up, you can see I've modelled the roads. So I don't need to see, the grass is just for the horizon.
For the horizon.
Yeah, that's right. So here, you can see it's not a problem, once we can see the roads. Okay, so I've got some of the materials coming across from Revit, and you can definitely use those. Or you can change all of the materials as much as you want to in Lumion.
Alright, so Lumion is different than 3D Max?
It is, yeah. It automates a lot of the
Which one
things.
is 3D Max or the...
Well, 3ds Max is more high-end, and you can do more complicated things in 3ds Max. So it's better. Yep. Details, complicated animation, complicated materials, different rendering programs. You've got, there's no limit to what you can do with 3ds Max. This is, yeah, of course, it's the most high-end program that we use. Yeah, because, yeah, Lumion, no, 3ds Max. Lumion automates a lot of those things because in 3ds Max, let's say you want to have a moving 3D person. You need to study anatomy a little bit. You need to know how people get rigged, those sorts of models. They start with a skeleton and then they tie the mesh to the skeleton just before you even think about making them move. Right, so there's a lot of setup and a lot of technical work, but Lumion automates those things. So it makes it much faster and easier. Exactly. Yeah. That's right. Exactly.
It will give us the same result as 3D Max or better?
No, not as good,
Yeah.
but close.
Good enough.
Yeah, good enough. That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm happy with
Yeah, no, it's amazing. I mean, I saw, did you see that there was a development company that went bust today? Raylan or something? A Chinese one. That, yeah, was a big one though. And so they went bust. And they were big developers. And I saw some of their rendering that they used to market their developments. They weren't a bad company in some ways. Some of their projects looked okay, but they, you know, lots of companies go bust. So but what was interesting is that their animation that they used to market their developments was obviously done with Lumion. So you can do good things with it. Anyhow, so that's just one thing I saw. Anyhow, so I've seen lots of other things done with Lumion as well. And so maybe, I was going to start with the materials, but maybe I'll start with people since you may be thinking about that. So here, down the bottom, notice I'm in build mode to start with. So if you lose these buttons down on the bottom left, just click on the shoveling man over on the right. That's build mode, which is where you spend most of the time at first. So if I go to photo or some other of these buttons, again, to get those tools back, you just click on the shoveling man, which is build mode, and they'll all come back. So again, I'll start with people. And to see the people, you need to be in place, exactly. Place mode, and then the library will come up. There we are.
Whoa.
So there's no searching for people to download. That's right, it's all built into the program.
Is that the guy who is from Saudi Arabia?
Yeah, they would have. Yeah, they would. Because that's a big market. No, it's because they do lots of development in places like Dubai and other places where it's a big market, so they need people that part of the world. Yeah, there'll be plenty of Asian people. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, they do all around the world. Yes, yeah, that's right.
Oh, that's wrong with the red hair. Just probably not good.
Now I understand everyone is racist. No one likes red people. I do. I do.
Where's the white people? Oh, white.
Okay, so how easy is that? you find the person, and they automatically go onto the surface that you click.
They're moving as well.
Yep, they do.
You know? They're breathing.
Yeah, they do.
Do they fight?
I don't know, but you can make them walk.
Why do you think with the fight in your model?
What if you're making a box and like you make
He
people
just
fight?
put two people in front of each other.
Yeah, so let's say you get it wrong, and they're in the wrong place. You can go to delete, and then of course you can clear them.
Then you have to learn how to play something stuff in render.
Yep. Okay, so you can bring them around.
But we can't see
Look
what
like different, but with the short ahead.
no, that is a bit dark. That bit is big, right? Anyway.
So they're still people. You'll see most of them have a walking version as well.
Can you put some sharp?
No. That's another thing. Yeah.
Daddy, can you put sharp?
So yeah, there are animals. There are plenty of animals. So yeah, you can do that. Okay, so I'll show you how to use the walking people. They'll walk on the spot at first, but you can actually give them a direction and make them walk along a path. So yeah, but it's very automatic. I mean, these things, like I said, it used to take years to learn, and now these programs just automate so much of it. So yeah, so you've got all sorts of vehicles, boats, but then the cars.
But in the middle of the street. Let's go inside because the old doesn't have your structure then.
That's right. So you can do all of those things, but then, yeah, you're probably thinking about the interiors. Now, this is where we've got to look at materials. So it's great to go through all these different object libraries, but now we'll look at materials because before I can really look inside, I need to make the glass better. So notice how some of the materials come through properly. The glass in these windows that I've made, right? And then I know I've set the materials, and then the timber in here as well. It's fine. I might change some of it, but otherwise it's okay.
I have a question.
Yep.
You use the opening downstairs, but why it doesn't go inside?
Yeah, so again, because the glass material isn't working, so sometimes the materials don't come across properly. So here, I'm going to go to material, so that's the second panel down the bottom, and then it's back to front compared to Revit. So in Revit, you choose the object and then you go in to edit the material. Here, you go to materials, then you choose your object, and it straight away brings up the material, the library. So in some ways, it's simpler than Revit. It's probably the way a lot of people think Revit should be. There's a reason it's not, but anyhow, it'll make more sense as you use it. And then, so indoor, that's right, and there's a glass, a whole library of glass. There's all your glass materials. So you just choose the one you want. That's it.
Wow. That looks nice.
Yep. So that's just glass. So let's say, so I'm happy with that. There's no real undo in Lumion. So they don't have an undo button. So what you have instead, is down here, you've got a tick and a cross. So if you're happy, you click the tick. If you're not, click the cross. So tick to finish, and now that material's done. So let's say I want to put brick onto the outside wall, so I'll choose that wall first. Then I'm going to go to outdoor, and there's a bricks folder. Now you'll see there's going to be a problem here, but I'll show you anyway. So I'm going to choose my wall. Yep, that's right. That's the problem.
The whole city, because they're all on the same.
Exactly, that's the main problem. That's it. That's right. Well, that's where you need to think about going back to Revit because I've assigned the material. Exactly. So I'm going to cancel this. Exactly. That's it. So you can always go back and break it up later. So I've seen there, like you were saying, it's going over the other things that I don't want it to. It's because they're all on the finished material. So they're all the same. So back into Revit, it's a good chance for you to look at updating with those changes. So I'm going to select my So my walls, they're the ones with the problem. So I go to edit type, edit my structure, and you can see there it's got finished material. So it's just the material that it started with. So I'm going to change it to a different material. I don't need to make one because I know in this Revit file it should have a masonry brown brick material. Yeah, so masonry is brick, that's fine. So that's changed all of those walls, and then I just need to change these walls to have the same material. Okay, so there we are. So I've made the change in Revit. So as usual.
So whenever we can't change it in Lumion or give us all the flow,
Yep.
so we go on Revit and we edit it from there.
Exactly. Exactly.
Now you have to reload that into the...
Exactly. So that's the main thing I want to show you. So now back onto Lumion, I'll click Export again. I'm not changing any options, I'm just going to click Export again. And then make sure that I've got the same file name as I had before. And when I click Save, it should tell me the file already exists. Do I want to replace it? Yes, I do. And that's going to overwrite the file that I exported previously with the new changes. So that might just take a second. And now I can go back to Lumion, and then on the Objects panel, go to Imports Mode, go to Select, and then you've got to find that node. So it might be grey, but when you click on it, it'll be green or sometimes blue. There we go, blue once you click on it. Well, then you need to find this reload button, which comes up in the top right there. So that circular arrow button, that's reload. So click on that. It won't look like anything's happening, but that is reloading my changes. So there we are. So it's brought in the material from Revit, with material. Now you might think, well, that's not good enough. It's actually all right, but maybe you want to get a better one. Yeah, it's okay, but just so you can see how to get the Lumion material. So I go to Materials again, choose that wall, which is now you can see got the name of the material that came from Revit. So I'll go to Outdoor, go to my bricks folder, and see if I can find a brick that looks better in Lumion. Normally the Lumion materials do look a little bit better. You've got, yeah, so, yeah, that one, that could be right. Oh, yeah, sure. Oh, yeah, there's only that one. Yeah, sure. So I don't mind this colour. So we can always change it though if you want to. There are lots in the library. So yeah, you can try it all sorts of things. But yeah, so I think probably that one was the best. That'll do. Okay, so then going inside, we can maybe look at setting up some views for rendering and then doing quick animation. Yep. Oh yeah, sure. So, oh yeah, the other thing I didn't tell you, to rotate the view with the mouse, you right drag. So with the right mouse button, you drag to rotate the camera. So you can look in different directions. So, okay, so let's say I want this view now to start my animation. Or maybe over here. No, this will do. And so first I'll just set up a still render. I'll get some better views later, and I'll obviously keep developing the design a lot more in Revit, so I better just click the tick there to finish that material, and then to do a quick render. Oh, you can make your own, just like Revit. Oh, yeah, yep.
So let's say I want to use the floor is marble.
Yep, okay, I'll do that. So, okay, so here under materials, I'll choose the floor. And then best to go to start with the material that's close. So under indoor, you've got a stone folder, and there's plenty of marble there. Yeah, it's all set up, ready to go. But then, if you want to change it, you can.
Can you show me how to change it?
Sure. Okay, so it's often easiest to finish it, and then come back, and then when you select it again, it gives you this panel. And then there, you can actually put in your own image. So there, that's the way you... Yeah, just like in Revit. Exactly. That's it, just the same. Yeah, it is. Yeah. So, yeah, so that's starting to get there. So... Oh yeah, of course, yeah. So that's it, we can fix all that. Yep. But another great thing... Yep. You can't move it in Lumion. You have to do it in Revit. Yeah. Which is good in a way, so then there's no confusion. So let's just say I want to set up a basic render though. Yeah. So that's over here, you've got the camera. Yep. So it started where I was. And so an easy way of making a interior render, if you go to custom style, and it's got these presets. So there's an interior one right there. Done. Yeah, now it'll bring in the lights, but you can also make lights in Lumion, but that's for another day. So for now though, down the bottom right, you've got, firstly I better take the photo. So here, they're all blank. So I'm going to click on the little camera above my first slot there. So that stores the camera. So now I can go to the second one and get a different view. Just as an example. So if I bring it around. Okay, so again, store camera. So now to go back to the first one, simply choose it, and it takes us back to that view. Yep, that's it. And then the little button in the bottom right is the render photos button. So then all you need to do is choose your resolution down the bottom. So I'll just choose desktop. Give it a name. Yeah, it's amazing technology, yeah, and it's going to get better and better. Right, so you can see already, I haven't even put lights in yet.
Let's say we put some lights in that so the light will work as well.
It doesn't use Revit lights. They're not compatible. No, but it's got its own lights. So you can put lights in Lumion.
Yeah, I've seen someone putting some lights.
Yeah.
I don't know if that software yet, but
Yeah.
I think now it makes sense. I've seen someone walking around the interior and designer.
Yeah.
I think he was doing as well
Yeah.
that kind of project.
Yeah, the lights in Lumion work really well. But even without lights, it cheats a bit. It puts a lot of extra light into the interiors that you wouldn't get in Revit, because Revit, they want it to be real. So in real life, if we took a photo inside the building and there were no lights, it'd be really dark, even on a sunny day, because it's a big building. But with Lumion, they cheat. They just put in light so that you can see it anyway. Yeah, our cloud probably, could still do better quality, but it's pretty amazing. This is, 50 seconds to get that quality. Yeah, that's it. And that looks better than most of the things that I see out of Revit. With no setup. It's just instant. Yes, sure. Yeah, I will. Yeah. Well, I was going to show you animation too. So that's a still render, and then animation is just the one underneath the movie button.
I'll see that animation.
I've got to get Photoshop.
Yeah, sure. This won't take long. I'll just do this.
No,
And then,
I've got to understand.
oh yes, yeah, sure.
I love it.
Yeah. But yeah, it can just give you other options. So here, click record. Okay, so let's start on the outside. So I've got my camera to where I want to begin. So then you just click take photo, and it starts from there. So I now move the camera forward, so I'm just using the keyboard to do that, and rotate it around, and take another photo. Going a bit further, So I'll come down to where I want to go in, so maybe about here. Okay, so again, take photo, and then we're going a bit further, and maybe up to here to my screens that I designed, which I was happy with, so I want to see them. And again, take photo, and we'll come around for one more shot looking down. Well, there's nothing there, so let's go the other way. So now we're coming down this way. So take photo, and actually, oh sorry, that missed it. Do it again, take photo, and then maybe, because I want to finish somewhere, we're looking at something, I'll just bring it around a little bit more. That'll do. And again, take photo. So that's done, and to see it, you click the play button, and that will string all those shots together, does all the keyframes for you, and all the frames in between. Yep, that's it. And it decides how to rotate the camera and do whatever it needs to get. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, this is just repeating. Yeah, that's it. So that's how long animation can take. And if you then decide to go back, so let's say, yes, oh yes, I will. Yeah. 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 Well, to put animation in, you need to present digitally. So you can't print out an animation, of course. So it only really helps if you're presenting, with a projector or something.
Yeah. So we can actually
Yeah. Yeah, of course. Yeah. So let's say I want to go and edit that. If I go back to the animation, I'm just going to double click on it. Also, click the edit button there, it does the same thing. So I can always go and add more shots. So let's say I decide I want to have it do a bit more at the end. So I go to that last frame there, and again, take a new photo. So to then export that movie, there's that render movie button, and you can just choose the resolution. I'll just do it small here so it goes through quickly. And it's okay, but you generally, for the final, do it at least HD, or if not higher. So this will take a bit longer. So even on low quality, you can see it'll take 4 or 5 minutes, which might seem like a long time, but how long do you think it would have taken in the old days? And I mean like 3 or 4 years ago. Yeah, exactly. More. So yeah, definitely. So this is 26 seconds of animation. 26 seconds would be 26 times 30, because there's 30 frames per second. Okay, so that's in my head 780. Yeah, 780 frames. And in the old days, if you could get a frame to render in 10 minutes, you'd be doing really well. So let's say you did that. Again, 10 minutes a frame times 780, so that's 7,800 minutes, which may not sound like that much until you work out how many hours that is. That's 130 hours, which is 5.5 days to render 26 seconds of animation on not much quality either. Right, so 5.5 days as opposed to 5 minutes in here. Right, so that's the difference. And so it means that animation becomes an option for a lot of people, whereas in the past it just wasn't. Okay, so in that time you can see it's nearly done. Okay, but I'm not going to wait for it. I'll press escape. And that'll cancel it. But even if you cancel rendering animation, you can still play it up to that point. So here we are. Okay, so there's the animation file, which I stopped halfway through, so it won't have the whole thing. but you can still see up to that point. Well, so how good's that? You can just make animation in next to no time. Okay, so that should be enough to get you started on Lumion. I'll go through some other things later. But you can set it up at any stage. You don't need to finish your design. As long as you've got the building shell, then you can set up the link into Lumion, and then as you make more changes in Revit. Sorry? Yeah, absolutely, any time. That's right. I'd do it now, as soon as you can. The sooner the better. Yeah, it's a great thing to try. And actually is really handy for design sometimes because you can really get a good look at how the building looks in 3D and start to navigate and explore it the way you do in gaming software. No, that's the one. Right, so that makes sense. When you start to navigate this way, it's a bit more natural than the way you do in Revit. Okay, so I'll finish it there anyway, but hopefully I'll give you some things to go on with.